Hello, President. What a wonderful afternoon. Today, I'm going to reflect on the word that comes from the book of Daniel. And the theme here is the reflection of Daniel's interpretation of King Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom and his majesty. You can imagine King Nebuchadnezzar had this wonderful dream, and now he was furious about the dream itself, and it troubled him. He could not sleep, and he wanted interpretation. And it was concerning of his kingdom, how his kingdom had grown and grown and grown and died the heavens, and its wings had spread to the four winds of the heavens, meaning that his kingdom had grown so powerful, and all things on the planet had were dependent on this kingdom because he made policies that affected the common people and all the kingdom that existed in his time. And we are going to see a God who never changes, a God who is historical. We understand that God is an historical God. He controls times and events. His statutes are eternal and forever. Just by example, we are going to reflect how King Nebuchadnezzar reflected on himself. He looked at his kingdom. He never saw that there was no other kingdom that would devour him. He thought that he would rule and rule forever and ever. But God says, hold on, let's examine. We're going to look at the book of Daniel, chapter 4, and the theme here will be, did I not build this great Babylon with my own strength and splendor as my majesty and my restraint? So he saw himself the pillar of that kingdom. He owned that kingdom. He was proud of heart. He didn't really recognize the heavenly God. Every human, or every creature upon that dwelled in that time upon the heart was dependent on him. We are going to see that. And we are going to draw a parallel relation to our modern times, how nations have become similar in exceptionalism, similar in the undertaking, and they have forgotten that there is one who rules and reigns over men forever and ever, whose kingdom is an eternal kingdom that is everlasting. Let's examine. Let's look at chapter 4, and the first we will start from verse. We could really examine the whole of it, and says Nebuchadnezzar was at home in his palace, content and prosperous. I had a terrifying dream. As I laid in bed, and the images and the visions of my mind frightened me. I issued a decree that all the wise men of Babylon should be brought before me to give an interpretation of the dream. When the magician, enchanters, children, and astrologers had come, I related the dream before them, but none of them could tell me its meaning. Finally, there came before me Daniel, whose name is Belshazzar. After this, the name of my God, and in whom is the Spirit of God, of the Holy God. So you think about Daniel at that time is a man who possessed the Spirit of God. That's the distinction that differentiates Daniel and these magicians. It's like modern times. We have magicians, we have psychics, we have all kinds of people. We have military men who can pursue their own agendas in the universe of art. We have high priests and all kinds of people in our modern time. Similar was the time that Daniel existed. I repeated the dream to him, but as a chief of the magicians. I know that the spirit of the Holy God is in you, and no mystery is too difficult for you. Tell me the meaning of the vision that I saw in my dream. Now he's seeking. When you say something beyond yourself, you cannot understand. Now you are seeking the spirit of gods. And Daniel himself reassured King Nebuchadnezzar, telling him, only a God who doesn't dwell among us men can really interpret your dream. And Daniel goes to pray, to fast, and God gives him the interpretation. It's only God who reveals times and seasons. This was the vision that I saw while in bed. I saw a tree of great height at the center of the world. It was large and strong, with its top touching the heavens, and it could be seen to the hands of the earth. Its, its leaves were beautiful, and its fruits abundant, providing food for all. Under it, the wild beast found shade in its branches, and birds of the air nested. All men ate of it. In the vision I saw while in the bed, a holy sentence came down from heaven and cried out, God, cut down the tree and drop off its branches, strip off its leaves and scatter its fruits. Let the beasts of the free its seed and the birds its branches, but leave it in the heart its trunks and roots, feathered with iron and bronze in the grass of the field. So you can imagine the interpretation there. Yeah, and the dream itself. It's a depiction. And King Nebuchadnezzar is so frightened. What is all about this? But he doesn't realize his kingdom itself. It is what God is telling him. Your kingdom has grown so powerful, and it has spread even to the skies and touched the heavens, and its wings are spread to the four corners of the earth. And every creature on earth feeds from you. Their power, their strength, their mighty. Let him be petted with the dew of heaven. His rod be to eat among peace and grass of the earth. Let the mind be changed from the human. Let him be given the sense of a beast until 7 years pass. You can imagine that the kingdom of Nebuchadnezzar, if we go through the interpretation, his mind is changed to an animal, a beast. And if for 7 years he goes there, and then until he acknowledges the power of who? The power of the Most High. That's when his kingdom is restored. If we move from there, let's see now the interpretation here. You, O king, the tree, O king, large and strong, your majesty has become so great to touch the heavens, and your rule extends over the whole earth. As for the king's vision of holy center that came down from heaven and proclaimed, cut down the tree and destroy it, this proclaim, cut down the tree and destroy it, and lived, but the leaves in the heart, its stump and roots furthered with the iron and prawns in the grass of the field, let be petted with dew of heaven, and let his rod be among the wild beasts until 7 years pass over him. This is the meaning, O king, this is the sentence which the Most High has passed upon my Lord King. You shall be cast out from among and dwell with the beast. You shall be given grass to eat like an ox and be petted with the dew of the heavens. 7 years shall pass over you until you know that the Most High rules over kingdoms of men and gives to whom he will. The command that the stump and the roots of the tree are to be left means that your kingdom shall be preserved for you once you have learned it is heaven that rules. So the concept here that God rules over man, and his kingdom is the kingdom of the Most High until he acknowledges. It's like we look at our modern times, many of our most powerful nations of our time, they tend to forget about, they tend to reflect on the term exceptionality, to, to be above, to think beyond reason and doubt, to be not comparable or compatible with others. You don't see others as of value in your own understanding. That's similar understanding that King Nebuchadnezzar was telling this great king. It, sometimes I look at my vision there behind me. It is similar in nature because the trees like that cloud rose and touched the heavens and spread it to the four winds, and the heaven glory opened up. And then at the end of the vision, the lays of lights spread with the crowd spread to the four winds and was seen no more. It's like similar in nature because God who reveals his glory in time reveals his glory to us so that men of our time will listen to his glory. So let's see what happens. If we go to verse 25, all this happened to King Nebuchadnezzar. 12 months later, as he was walking in the roof of the royal palace in Babylon, the king said, Babylon the Great, was it not I, with my great strength, who built it, a loyal residence to my splendor and majesty? While these words were still on the king's lips, a voice spoke from heaven. It has been decreed for you, King Nebuchadnezzar, that your kingdom is taken from you. You shall be cast out from among men, and you shall dwell with wild beasts. You shall be given grass to eat like an ox, and 7 years shall pass over you until you learn that the Most High rules over the kingdoms of men and gives it to whom he will. At once this was fulfilled. Kingdom. You can imagine that God, as a God of history, is a God of, of all generation. His kingdom is the kingdom of the Most High. And you imagine that no kingdom on earth could surpass the power of the Most High. You look at our modern times and we tend to reflect the nations of the earth. You see power, they are given power. They are given economics, like Nebuchadnezzar had the power. He ruled through economics, he ruled through military, he ruled through everything. And every kingship, every person on earth depended on them. They stretched their wings to the four winds of the earth. But what does God do? He says he rules over men until they acknowledge his kingdom. So you think about our time, the nations dwell. We have reached a point in time where we are modern powers. And it's even written that in the latter days there will be iron and clay kingdoms that are interwoven. If you see in our modern time, we exactly have such a powers. They have strength in them, but they are aligned by alliances. So they have to use the alliances. Sometimes they are strong, but there are some which are iron themselves. When they break others into pieces. And we see that in a practicalness in our time. But what does God do? If you read it even in the book of Daniel, you will see that the Holy One comes and takes all the kingdoms of the earth. Even if you go into Revelation 21, you will see that John the Revelator was shown the heavenly kingdom. Behold, the whole order is gone, and the new Jerusalem descends from heaven. And you see such a splendor of the Lord. And we try to imagine in our time, do we really prophets and God's people exist? Does God speak through the prophets? Does God speak? God never stops. God has never stopped to speak. His kingdom is the kingdom of the Most High. His kingdom is eternal. His kingdom is everlasting. And that is what dominates from historical point, from all the prophets, from all holy men. God has been the same God. There is no kingdom on earth that has surpassed the power of God. Men may think that they live in an exceptional times, but who rules? The Lord of hosts, the grand master of the universe, the grand architect of the universe, the master of all nations. His kingdom is the kingdom of the Most High. So, when I try to understand that mystery behind me there, it's mystical, it's beyond mysteries. It's a mystery that reveals revelation. Revelation means to reveal. God reveals his glory upon man. God reveals his kingdom. He makes his covenant with man. And if man goes beyond his kingdom, what does God do? He breaks those kingdoms into pieces and hands them to other kingdom. Brethren, stay tuned as we continue to explore the power of God in our days, the power of God and his splendor in our time and eternity. May God bless you and be joyful in the Lord and always rejoice in the Lord.